And welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Atlantic City here from New Jersey. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Nate Price. We've been here all weekend and we finally reached the top 8. Brad Nelson back in the spotlight here in the top 8. It looks like he's ready to go. You can see him joking around with his opponent here, and he's going to be playing against Seneca Hobler there. And Seneca's on John, a deck we haven't seen a ton of this weekend. We have, however, seen Brad Nelson and his pedal to the metal deck quite a bit. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what the pedal to the metal deck is going to be doing here?
Well, in this matchup here, Jund is one of the mid-range archetypes you see in Standard right now. It tends to hit about turn 3 or turn 4 and start playing larger creatures than the average one. Try to take over it. I mean, it's basically at its heart a creature-based deck. Nelson's deck plays well against those creature-based decks because it runs a complement of pingers, including Is It Static Caster and Olivia Voldaren, to team up and pair up with the Nightshade Peddlers that are in the deck to just decimate opposing creature strategies.
Now, do you think that Brad's going to be able to keep down these relatively fragile 2-creature combos in the face of Seneca Hobler and what I'm assuming is quite a bit of removal from his Jund deck?
Seneca's deck certainly stands a much better chance of being able to deal with the fragile base of Nelson's deck than the Naya version of mid-range would be.
Yeah.
But Nelson understands that the Nightshade Peddler more often than not can act as simply a lightning rod, which he wants it to do.
All right, and so he's got Deathrite Shaman to lead things off, and Seneca is going to lead with a tapped Blood Crypt. Excuse me. And looks like Brad Nelson is just going to battle in, and he's going to follow up with, there he is, the Nightshade Peddler, a card that saw a reasonable amount of play in Limited, but has had only a few little spikes in Constructed. It's kind of a unique card. It has Soulbond. When they cast another creature, you can pair it with it, and then both creatures get Death Touch. Otherwise, it's just a 1/1. And it looks like Seneca's not too worried about it. He's going to use a Pillar of Flame on the Deathrite Shaman. All right, well, just a straight-up 1/1 for 2 is going to battle in here and take a very small chunk of Seneca Hobler's life total as he's going to drop down to 18. And it looks like Brad Nelson is just going to ship the turn back. Now, if he has an Is It Static Caster in his hand, and in fact he does, I can see he can flash that in and pair it up. But you know what? That's not going to happen because Seneca says, I've got another Pillar of Flame, and I'm just going to keep all creatures off your board. So it looks like Brad's going to flash in an Is It Static Caster here on end step. He's got another one in his hand as well. And ship the turn. I think we're going to see a Garruk Relentless here.
Yeah.
No, it's a Huntmaster of the Fells, in fact. And he's going to be able to just keep up that Is It Static Caster. Right now it's just doing nothing unless Seneca is not playing something with 1 toughness because it's going to hold it off the board.
Right. I mean, at this point, Seneca's not doing anything, not providing any pressure, but then again, this is the turn where his deck starts to do something.
So Rakdos' return is going to make Brad discard the last 2 cards in his hand. Is It Static Caster and Thragtusk. So 2 really important cards. Getting 2 Is It Static Casters down is really impressive. Brad's going to attack with his Wolf token and his Huntmaster of the Fells, play a land, and on his opponent's upkeep, he is going to transform Huntmaster of the Fells into Ravager, and now it's a 4/4, and Seneca's going to take 2 more damage as a result of that. So Seneca, while he's gotten his opponent to be completely top decking, he hasn't done a great job of keeping the creatures off the board yet as he's facing down 6 power, 6 toughness, and kind of an annoying pinger as well.
Here comes
is this a Huntmaster of his own?
Yep.
Okay.
This is an interesting matchup for Brad, considering many of his own creatures in the creature base are identical to Seneca's, so those Is It Static Casters hurt his own creatures as well.
That's true. Looks like Brad has 2 mana to spend here. Oh, he just drew a Nightshade Peddler. He is going to pair it up with the Is It Static Caster, and now the Static Caster can just shoot down anything at once. Like you mentioned, if he happens to shoot the Wolf, it will kill his Wolf as well. Before blocks, though, he's just going to take out the non-transformed Huntmaster of the Fells. That does not kill his Ravager of the Fells, as they're considered a different card on the table.
Trixie.
Yep. So this is a great position here, and Seneca is going to trade Wolves and take 4 damage, dropping him down to 10. But it looks like Brad's in a pretty commanding position. I saw that Seneca happens to have a big Garruk in his hand, but that's not going to do much here, really.
No. As long as Brad has Peddler Staticaster online, Seneca can't contribute just a single creature to the board, or I mean,
Right.
he's not getting anywhere.
That's right. And he can't use Garrick to draw a bunch of cards. There he is, and basically he's just left to make a beast token. Brad can untap, kill the beast token, and then if he wants, he can kill Garrick. If he doesn't, he can just keep attacking Seneca because it's going to take a creature and a minus to do it. All right, so he's going to take out the beast first, and I'm assuming he's going to attack Garrick, but let's find out.
Attack Garrick. Attack you.
Yeah, gets in for 1 at Seneca and managed to take the Garrick up. Garrick was nothing more than a delay tactic, buy himself another draw step.
That's right.
Judge Eric to the front, please. Judge Eric to the side of the stage, please.
Which goes to show how powerful the combo that Brad has on the table is. Seneca just is forced to pass the turn back once again. He attacks for 5. He's going to drop Seneca down to 4 here, and he's just going to pass the turn.
Yeah, this is
Seneca draws his card and scoops up his lands as Brad Nelson makes quick work of the Jund deck, even though
I would like to get a drink of water and go to the restroom.
Brad's going to take a quick break here, but Seneca was able to take out the first few creatures that Brad played, but it didn't matter.
no, it's clearly.
All right, let's take a look at Josh Utter-Layton. He's on the right side of your screen here.
Hey, look, I thought we just saw Brad Nelson on the other side of the table.
There he is, and this is Ryan Leverone on the other side. And it looks like Josh is doing what he's done this whole weekend. He's piled a bunch of stuff on a Isis Saint draft, and it looks like he's won this game.
Yeah.
So
Double
I
strike.
think Josh is up a game.
All right.
Yeah,
so
he's up a game 1-0 right off the bat. For those of you just joining us, we're in the top 8 here in Atlantic City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm with Nate Price here. And what we have here are 2 fairly quick games. Brad Nelson won his game in short order after getting Is It Staticaster paired up with the Nightshade Peddler. It's kind of the focus combo for his deck there. So he's up 1 game over Seneca Hobler and Jund, who wasn't able to kill quite enough creatures to stabilize. On the other side of the bracket, Josh Utter-Layton with his Bant Auras Aurelie deck has taken the first game after piling what looked like 3 or 4 auras onto a Geist of St. Trapp.
and then giving it double strike with a Silverblade Paladin.
Yeah.
Fairly strong.
Why not?
I mean, based on the way the bracket is set up right now, I mean, Nelson has a very, very favorable quarterfinals match. Depending on how things go, like either of his opponents in the semis is not like ideal for him because neither of them are particularly creature-based decks.
It feels like Bant Auras would be a fairly bad matchup for Brad, doesn't it?
I think so, simply because his setup is so slow.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you're playing a 1/1 that doesn't get bigger and an 0/3, it's going to be hard to run over your opponent.
Yeah, you don't get the race. I mean, you're not playing interactive Magic with the Auras deck. Consequently, if you can't race them, be faster at what they're trying to do, then it's going to be hard for him to win. Like I definitely think of that as a weaker matchup.
Yeah,
for him.
I mean, and especially because the Auras deck is going to play creatures with hexproof, and it's going to not open itself up to that kind of damage. So.
Yeah.
What about against Matt Costa's blue-white-red flash deck? What do you think about that?
It's a little bit better for him because then his creatures that he has in his deck are not terribly aggressive, but they will get the job done, and they have an opportunity against Costa's deck because, I mean, Costa still wins through creatures and creatures that Nelson can hit. The top end of Costa's deck doesn't scare Nelson as much either because of the fact that he has the ability to just death touch them away. Costa does have the ability to wipe away anything that Nelson gets set up with the Supreme Verdict, and the spot removal that he's playing is good at taking apart anything that Nelson puts together. Ironically, I think it's a situation where Huntmaster of the Fells becomes incredibly important for Nelson, which you expect against the aggressive decks in the format, but less so against the control decks. So, I mean, just simply providing Nelson with multiple attackers is something that's going to be good for him in that matchup.
Okay.
The other side, I don't know, Auras versus Jund seems to me on paper like it favors the Auras deck, but Jund certainly has the tools necessary to take the Auras deck out. So I mean, I would definitely give the slight edge to Utter-Layton, especially considering the fact that he's up a game now. The slight edge becomes much larger. The big wild card on that right side of that bracket there is Lloyd Kurth and his Esper deck. His matchup against Mono Red isn't incredibly favorable, but he certainly can win that matchup. And I think of all of the decks that are in the top 8, his has the best chance of stopping the Van Oris deck.
All right.
So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. But I think that your pick of Lloyd Kurth on the right side of that bracket might actually be a reasonable one.
Yeah, it looks like yours is too off to a quick win versus Seneca Hobler, and also just fighting through the removal.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of removal to stop. I mean, he did clear away the early creatures, but he didn't have any pressure to follow it up. Like, the removal is only really good if you're doing something in the meantime, because you can remove one creature, but if you're not putting a clock on Nelson, like, he just has an opportunity to draw into more things, and at that point, anything his deck's going to do fine.
Yeah.
The sideboarding will be very interesting.
I see Seneca has grabbed. Now it looks like he's pulled him off to the side. I saw he had a Slaughter Games in his hand there, but it looks like those are not.
No matter what your words say.
Not in his main deck.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised to see that actually make it in.
Well, when it's actually me, yeah.
Hubler's got.
I was on a brownie in the finals.
Let's see. He's got his own Olivia Voldarens in the matchup.
Is that all the deck lists there, Nate?
Yeah, Hobler's got he's got his own Olivias in the matchup. He's got the standard stuff that you see from this mid-range deck. I mean, these creatures all just die to the Peddler. Brad does have to worry about the fact that the creatures that he uses to win the game, Thragtusk, Olivia, and Huntmaster, all share the same names. So he's going to have to be careful about his own plays. But yeah, it's going to be. I want to see how Brad sideboards. Actually, I want to see whether he decides to shy away from the Is It Staticaster side of dominating things and maybe slide down a little bit on that to bring in some other cards. But I mean, he's got Tragic Slip. Better against black-red zombies than it is in this matchup. At the same time, it will still trigger. Zealous Conscripts is very good in this matchup as well.
Okay.
So very interested to see how things go. Looks like Hobler's got. He's got a full complement of 4 Liliana of the Veils if he makes it past Brad and ends up playing against an Aura's deck. It's going to be very good. But he's got his own additional Olivia Voldarens to bring in. Sever the Bloodlines isn't that bad in this matchup. Underworld Connections doesn't seem like it's too bad in this matchup either, because there is some time set up. Most of Brad's damage is dinking and dunking, so the ability to draw extra cards could come into play here.
Okay.
And he's got Golgari Charms, which are strong in this matchup, to say the least.
I don't know if you heard Seneca, but he just said on the camera that he lost 9 game ones this weekend. He said his assumption is that his main deck isn't very good.
Yeah.
But his sideboard must be excellent.
Yeah, his sideboard shores up. I'm curious what he played over the course of the weekend then, 'cause his sideboard shores up matchups that aren't what we expected necessarily to see here. I guess if we can count the fact that we saw a tremendous amount of blue, white, red flash occupying the top tables over the course of day 1 and early in day 2, the 4 copies of Liliana, the Underworld Connections, and the Slaughter Games are all very, very powerful cards in that matchup. So it makes his game 2 into a significantly better spot. But against the creature decks, his main deck is set up to beat creatures, which is exactly what I would have done coming into this event.
Yeah.
I think what most people have done coming into this event.
Yeah.
One more look. I just want to make sure he does it.
See, Brad Nelson is taking a look at the deck list. We're actually looking at the same ones over here, but players are given deck lists for all the people in the top 8, so this information is known to them.
Damn, ultimate price so good.
The one resolve mulligans over here.
And then dodge everything.
I think one card in Nelson's deck that gives him a nice advantage in his matchup against the blue-white-red flash deck if he makes it through and ends up having to face Costa. Another card that turns that into a reasonable matchup. He does have copies of Kessig Wolfrun in his deck. We've seen told stories of all weekend players who just simply mana elves become lethal. I mean, he has the ability to cast an Is It Static Caster and attack for a significant amount of damage if he, gets to the point when his mana.
Yeah, a lot of people think that Staticaster has Defender.
No,
but it doesn't.
Just a 0 power. It's been used fairly effectively as a haster. both in this deck and in
Are we not gonna go
the
until they're done with
Human Reanimator deck that won Grand Prix
I'll
Nagoya.
let them know when you're done mulliganing and then we'll get instructions.
All right. Things should be underway here shortly. Players are going to get to mulliganing after they've sideboarded and.
See a trio of Olivia Voldarens and Brad Nelson's.
Oh, is that
opening
right?
hand. It'll be very unlikely if he keeps this.
I don't know.
That'd be
Yeah.
the bottom card, though, right?
You have 6 in hand right
Yeah, that'd be the bottom card.
Yeah, as long as you haven't seen it.
Yeah,
That's
that's.
the bottom card.
Unless he just knows that Seneca has a ton of answers that need to answer Olivia Voldaren, then you can't keep that in
It's a
hand.
random deck. It doesn't matter.
It's interesting how similar these decks are, actually, taking a look at the full sideboards, too. Nelson has the Is It Staticaster package of Staticaster and Peddler and Deathrite Shamans to go along with the fact that he has Tracker's Instinct because he wants to find whatever piece he is missing. So that 1/3 of his deck right there is specifically dedicated to this package. But other than that, his deck is virtually identical to the deck that we see Seneca Hobler playing, where rather than playing the creature-based removal strategy that Nelson is playing, we see a spell-based removal package coming out from Hobler, as well as some additional cards to help fight. He's got a little bit more on the top end with Thundermaw Hellkites and some Garrett Primal Hunters, as well as some Rakdos Key Runes to help accelerate and get him into the position where he can actually fight.
All right, Brad looks like he has kept his 6. He says, okay.
So you don't want verbal line totals on the other match then.
They know they're ready to go, right? They thought they were waiting.
All right.
All right, so Seneca Hobler is going to be on the play here. He's got a mountain and just shipped the turn back. Let's see what Brad starts off with. Oh, he draws a Rakdos' return. That could come in handy later for sure, but it's just going to be an overgrown tomb tapped here for Brad to lead things off. And Seneca has a turn 2 play. It's a Farseek, so a solid ramp and fixing spell here is going to get him up to some.
Imagine overgrown tomb.
Yeah, it's going to get him up to some really nice spells really early and also power out things like his own Rakdos' returns. I mean, the first one to cast one
Yeah.
certainly has the advantage.
Seneca's got a few cards to slow Nelson down in his hand already. He's got at least an Abrupt Decay that I could see as he was shuffling through his hand. So that kills virtually all of the setup pieces that Nelson's got.
All right, what does Nelson have? His own Farseek. All right. We could see being on the play be important here. We're going to find out in a little bit. Brad has another Farseek in hand, but he might just have a land 4-drop that he wants to cast. Like you were mentioning, Huntmaster of the Fells, that kind of thing on turn 3 is pretty nice. Let's see what Seneca has, though. Neither player has cast any.
It appears that Nelson has one of his 2 Rakdos returns in his hand.
Brad does?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Seneca does as well. So this could get really interesting. It looks like it's going to be a Rakdos Kirun and a land for Seneca. So we can expect to see Rakdos' return next turn, I'd expect, especially if he has a natural land drop to hit. It would be for 4 cards. Really punish Brad Nelson to the max for his mulligan. He's going to play 4 mana, and he is just going to play a Huntmaster, it looks like. He's going to take 2 damage doing it, but he's going to open himself up. He's got, I believe, 4 cards left. If Seneca has a land drop here, and the land is untapped, he's just drawn a land for sure. And if he does have that... No, it looks like he's just got Garrick Primal Hunter here, and he's going to use it to make a beast token and then pass the turn back. So he must not have Rakdos' return in hand, right?
Brad just asked Seneca how many cards he had in hand and received the answer of 3.
Yeah,
so if Brad has a land drop here, it's
interesting
very
question
apparent that
there.
he's going to...
He drew a Staticaster. He's also got an Overgrown Tomb in his hand.
Yeah.
Go to the gathering place to meet your judge. Again,
Do you just go for it now? How many does Seneca have in his hand?
I think Seneca said he had 3 cards in his
Okay,
hand.
well, if Brad can just hit this land drop and just wipe his hand away, that certainly would be a good start for Brad Nelson to start to try to defeat this Garrick Primal Hunter he's facing down on Seneca's side of the board.
Does 3 seem right? Being on the play. Seneca should have more than 3 cards in his hand, I think. But
shock myself. Rakdos return you.
All right, Rakdos' return,
I'm redirecting.
and he is going to redirect the damage
Three.
to Garrick, and 1, 2, and 3. So a second Garrick plus an abrupt decay and a land hits the bin. So Seneca is now down a Garrick and down a hand.
That will be.
All right. Looks like the Rakdos key rune is going to get activated, and he is going to attack for 6 damage, which Brad takes, dropping him down to 12.
This is one of the situations when that Rakdos key rune is generally better as a mana accelerator than an attacker. He's got to be scared anytime Brad leaves mana up, because his Staticaster can come down and ruin his day anytime that he actually activates that.
Absolutely. That's a Tracker's Instincts for Brad Nelson. He reveals Zealous Conscripts. Yeah. And Farseek and 2 lands. He's going to take the Zealous Conscripts. Only card he could. He's left up, assuming he doesn't play anything else right away, he's left up the mana for an Izzet Staticaster here.
Yes.
Yep.
He's trying to decide if he wants to leave that up to block the beast.
He could technically let Seneca attack, block, after, and then at the end of turn, Staticaster that beast away.
Chris Jordan, your booster
That would have
draft
been
is starting.
the reason he didn't
Please
attack
meet your
there.
judge in the gathering place. Chris Jordan, your booster draft is starting.
Right.
Yeah. Seneca's thinking now, probably mulling over whether he wants to activate that, whether he believes Brad.
Yeah, he's certainly keenly aware that Brad's representing an Izzet Staticaster here, and he does decide just to attack with the beast. He doesn't want to open up that key rune to get nailed by Staticaster.
What has the top of his deck brought him? Liliana,
Liliana
of
of
the
the
Veil.
Veil. We haven't seen much of that this weekend. Really powerful card, not particularly well positioned in Standard, but yeah, doing some work here. It looks like he is going to minus Liliana. That's going to be an edict effect, meaning that Brad's going to have to sacrifice a creature here. He
Does
can
that
flash in a Staticaster and sack that if he'd rather keep the wolf, but he decides just to let it go. He kills the wolf. He does, in fact, put the Staticaster in play on end step, draws his card, and he just drew a Nightshade Peddler, I think.
Seneca's play there was smart. He could have just gone and plussed Liliana to make people discard and been able to potentially just sit back and let it take the damage, pick away at Nelson's hand, but knowing Nelson had the
Staticaster?
conscripts in his hand.
Because he drew it from before.
Conscripts clear away the 3/3 on Seneca's side and get in for a fairly sizable amount of damage there.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Brad's just going to play the conscripts. He's going to target his land with it, though. And he is going to attack Liliana. Liliana down, and he's got a follow-up play. It's a Deathrite Shaman.
Mana acceleration.
Pass. Trigger. That's fine. 2 and 2.
All right, an attack from Seneca.
I would imagine things will be changing in very short order here for Nelson.
Second key rune is very awkward with the
Yeah.
is it Staticaster.
This is where Brad Nelson at 6 life takes the game over.
Yeah. Now Brad just drew Rakdos' return. I believe his other cards are Nightshade Peddler and a Farseek. Yeah.
Yep.
Right now Seneca has no cards in hand, I believe.
I believe you are correct.
So
Yesterday.
the Rakdos' return is acting more as a burn spell at the moment, which is fine. Just a thing to do later. And right now we're going to see a Tracker's Instinct flashed back for Brad Nelson. He sees an Izzet Staticaster, and another Tracker's Instinct's going to hit the yard as well, so he can kind of keep chaining those together to start moving further along here.
I mean, I brought in the lilies, the curses, and the templates.
Yeah. What was the last card you cut? Like, it was, you're taking out Garrett
He does have to be careful here because
to Hellkites, I assume?
even if he plays the Nightshade Peddler, he's got to make a decision about when he activates his Staticaster, because he has to slightly fear instant speed removal from Seneca, or if he attempts to kill off the beast, it would die. So yeah, he's gonna instead, it looks like, sit back, use that Staticaster as a deterrent for those Rakdos key runes. Very likely trade off his 3-3 for his opponent's 3-3.
All right, so it seems like things have become pretty stable here as far as this game goes.
Things can still be broken wide open, though.
Yeah, but for the moment.
I mean, Rakdos' return is lethal right now. And Brad doesn't have the ability to gain any life, so...
All right, draw step for Seneca Hobler. He's down a game facing Brad Nelson in the quarterfinals here from Atlantic City. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and I'm in the booth with Nate Price. We just heard that Josh Utter-Layton won his match, so he's going to advance to the semis.
Got really lucky with a Rakdos return on the draw in game 1, and
That doesn't sound like, how is that?
You can hear them chatting
like,
still.
I don't know.
He was just like sandbagging, playing around a sweep or something.
I don't know. He just didn't really.
All right, Olivia Voldarin is revealed off a Tracker's Instinct, and a third is at Staticaster, which gets kind of interesting. Start being able to take down beast tokens and a lot, much bigger creatures.
Best of luck.
All right. At this point, Nelson just simply pass the turn and ride the next, at least, untap step with his Shaman. He's got a bunch of mana. See what he chooses to do here. Okay, yeah, so.
Like you mentioned, Rakdos' return off the top is pretty incredible for Seneca, as it basically will just win him the game outright, and Brad's got to be at least a little concerned about that, as he still isn't able to put any pressure back on Seneca. All right, big Garrick Primal Hunter, and it's resolved. So does he just kill it to draw the 3 and hope to hit, or does he start to play a more patient game, plus it, make a beast, and then hope to get it?
It's a good question, actually.
I think he's just going to cash him in for 3 here. Now, there might be a response here, though. All right. There is no response. You know, as it stood, he's going to draw 3, but, you know, Brad could have a way to kill the beast and then prevent Seneca from activating that key rune by killing it with his Staticaster, but it didn't happen. So Seneca did draw 3 cards, and he's got to follow up Liliana of the Veil here.
Decisions now. He forces Nelson to sacrifice a creature. He knows that Nelson has another Visit Staticaster, so it's probably just going to hit play. But yeah, plussing seems like a much better option here.
Nate, you mentioned earlier that you thought that a lot of these were going to be fairly quick matchups given the nature of the cards, and this is the last match going in the top 8.
Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. This is the one I expected to go the longest.
All right, so Liliana Veil goes up to 4. Brad pitches an Appetite for Brain, since he's not likely to resolve that to any meaningful effect at this point in the game, and Seneca gets rid of a Farseek. So Liliana's on 4. And Brad is contemplating his options here. We do see he still has that Olivia Voldarin in hand. Why do you think he hasn't played it?
Why don't I think he hasn't played Olivia? I don't know. He hasn't had really an opportunity to. His only opportunity was last turn, and he needed to keep mana open for his Deathrite Shaman.
Okay.
So, if he there's a perfectly reasonable turn to play right now. Like I don't know why he wouldn't, unless he fears Bonfire.
And just wants to have a backup plan in hand.
We need
Yeah,
3
because
more
he's,
people for
I mean, he's
honor
currently dead to
boss.
Miracle
3 more
Bonfire,
for
too.
standard win a boss.
Is
2
there
more
a
people for
bonfire
boost
in
back.
Seneca's deck? It doesn't look like there is a bonfire in his deck. So, and he doesn't even have one of his sideboards, so guess that's not an issue. He does have Mizium Mortars, though, and so I can't think of a reason he wouldn't play it now, simply because he'd have the ability to activate it in addition to his 2 as static casters, kill the beast, and activate his shaman all at the same time to stay alive. I'm sure he's running through all of this, plus the fact that he's got a Tracker's Instinct in his graveyard that he might consider simply flashing back.
Okay.
I mean, I think he's definitely worried right now more than anything else about Mizium Mortars.
Quick update from the side tables. Ari Lax defeated Lloyd Kurth 2-0, so my Esper control deck fell very, very handily to mono red.
Yeah. Ari has been completely tearing this tournament up with that
He
mono red deck.
absolutely has.
Well, I guess it resolves in redirect anyway.
No. I don't get to see that until I choose.
So Brad is currently deciding how much he wants to, whether he wants to make it enough to redirect to Liliana and kill her outright,
Going to target Liliana.
or whether he wants to just simply hit her for 1 and then attack in. Okay, so he hits her for 1. Now he's going to
Super Sunday standard players.
Play Olivia Voldar.
Does he?
Standard players.
Interesting.
He passes a turn back. He still has that Deathrite Shaman activation available to him.
Yeah, he
He can
had
even
the,
make mana with it if he wants.
he had the ability last turn to tap it for mana, Olivia away the beast in conjunction with the 2 snapcasters and attack, but that leaves
Static
him
casters.
static casters and attack, but that leaves him completely open.
Well, he has no cards left in hand, so he's open now, right?
He is, but he's not dead.
Right.
Like, he's not a very happy camper if Seneca casts a Mizium Mortars, but he still has a ton of mana in play and has the ability to flash back.
All right, so Liliana is going to minus forcing Brad to sacrifice a creature. He sacrifices a static caster, but before doing so,
So now
he does 1 damage to the beast. And let's see what Brad's going to exile here. It looks like it was
Basic
actually
land.
a land, yeah, so he's
Yeah.
going to use Liliana to ping the beast, and he's going to finish it off with the other static caster. So Liliana's, excuse me, not Liliana, Olivia is going to get a +1/+1 counter thanks to that. And Brad gets a fresh draw step here.
And at this point,
So
there's
if he's
very
concerned with
little.
Liliana of the Veil, he can attack her, although she might not do much at this point. She only, she has to go +1 to do anything the next turn.
Yeah, I mean,
It looks like Brad's thinking about his options here. The one Is It Static Caster is still going to hold back the Rakdos Keyrune quite nicely. As Seneca.
but at the same time, if Seneca finds any way, any instant speed removal, or even sorcery speed to kill that Is It Staticaster on his turn, I guess he has
Then
the
he's got Olivia
Olivia
Voldar.
still to take
Yeah.
care of it. So,
So
yeah, he's.
pingers indeed.
I think he probably just goes straight at Seneca here.
Yeah, I think you can ignore Liliana for a turn unless he's really concerned about it. It also depends on what that card is in his hand. If he can't cast it and he wants to keep it, then he needs to take out Olivia because it's going away next turn.
Yeah.
If he's got a Rakdos' Return or something that he wants to use to get a big chunk of damage in or something.
Yeah.
Looks like Brad is doing a bunch of math here.
Well, he knows he's ahead, but he's in a tight spot still with his life total being so low, and he doesn't want to make a mistake.
Core attackers at you.
Yeah, so he goes at Seneca.
Yeah, both at Seneca.
Pundit's going to be using Olivia to pump.
He's going to ping his own
Sacrificial.
Static Caster.
Yeah.
Not even, it's still alive.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
True.
It's taking a beating here.
in the literary sense, I meant.
Yeah. He's going to ping another creature as well, and he's going to get Liliana. Excuse me, I keep saying Liliana. Olivia up to 6/6 here.
It's a Nightshade Peddler that Nelson's holding right there. So he's probably actually content to let. I don't even know if he plays that.
All right, so he's gonna. He should probably.
Why?
Oh, you mean if he just lets it get
exactly.
discarded, it doesn't
He
matter
might,
anyway?
Exactly. I mean,
yeah,
he might
yeah,
bait
you're
it
right.
into like letting it get discarded, and Seneca might have to lose something reasonable in his own hand.
Yep, and Seneca just shows him that he's only got 2 lands left in his hand, and he can't do anything about it. And Brad Nelson is going to advance to the semifinals here in Atlantic City. So let's take a look at the bracket once Rashad's done with it, and we'll see who has done what. But it looks like we've got Josh Utter-Layton advancing, Brad Nelson advancing. I don't know if Matt Costa won. Let's take a look. He did not. It looks like John Stern from Canada was able to get by Matt Costa with his blue right wed flash deck thanks to the Bant Auras that we've been keeping an eye on. And he is going to be facing down against Brad Nelson's Nightshade Pingers deck. So this is going to be an interesting one. Again, we talked about this before because that's pretty